Hello and welcome back to my channel. Hi if you're new here, hi if you're not. Today we are going into part 3 of the MLMs, cults, and coaching connection. If you missed parts 1 and 2, I will link them subsequently right up here in the cards as well as down in the description box below. In part 1, we talked about the common tactics used in each of these ventures and how they sort of relate to one another. And then in part 2, we talked about the role of the almighty leader in not only recruiting people into these things, but also getting them to stick around. Today, we're going to talk about how these grifts use manufactured credibility in order to gain momentum in their pursuits, and I am so excited to get into it. First, we can go ahead and say hello to everyone's favorite puppy, who is here in moral support of me filming this video. Before we get started, I do want to give a shout out to my VIP channel members, Lisa Loading and Pablo Eater. If you enjoy this content, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. Information on how to join my membership is listed if you click the join button down below. Now, let's go ahead and jump right in. So, credibility, what exactly is it? According to the dictionary, credibility is defined as the quality of being trusted and believed in, or the quality of being convincing and believable. And so it's my opinion that by establishing credibility, especially in the space of multi-level marketing, coaching, or cults, it's a very vital tool in being able to not only convince people to join you in the movement, but to also convince them to stick around. Because obviously, if a person or a business opportunity or a new community that you're looking to join comes with this laundry list of accolades and accomplishments, that's gonna make it seem like it's a lot more of a legitimate place to be and a legitimate movement to join than if I were just to show up and be like, hey, hire me as your coach, or join my MLM, or join my cult, without anything to back it up. And obviously, if you're getting someone to join your cult, you wouldn't call it a cult, you would call it like a movement or a community or whatever. I understand that, okay? I mean, if we think back to like Instagram of the 2010s, this is kind of giving the same vibes as when these like wannabe influencers would just buy a bunch of bot followers so that they would have, 10K, 100K people following them. But then anytime they would make a post, it would get like 5 likes, and you're like, where are all your followers at? That in itself is an example of manufactured credibility. And so as I was making this video, I was actually kind of reminded of an episode of Cringefluencers. If you're not familiar, I'll link them down below. But they did a video, and I think it was probably almost a year ago now, where they talked about this one business coach in particular by the name of Natasha Graziano. And basically they debunked how all of her like credentials and things that had happened in her life and like her whole storyline was pretty much completely made up. Mind you, the whole stream is like 3 hours long, so I'm not going to go through everything they uncovered, but I will link it in the description below if you are interested in watching. So further to these examples, when I think of manufactured credibility, I think of things that we see like New York Times bestseller, features in articles like Forbes or Business Insider, screen grabs of transactions in people's bank accounts, posts with the payouts from their MLM company. These are all tactics that people who are involved in these schemes will use to make it seem like the thing that they are doing is legitimate. And the purpose of this is to get you to back their grift. These people know that in order to convince you that they have the solution to the thing that you need, the community you're lacking, the business opportunity you've been waiting for, the 5 steps that you need to know in order to get rich, they need to show you some form of convincing proof in order for you to believe that they can deliver on those promises. Now, for the record, I do just want to clarify that I'm not saying that everyone who's been featured in Forbes or Business Insider or Entrepreneur.com is a scammer. In fact, I have many friends who have been featured in one or all of those or some form of adjacent media that are in fact not scammers. And I'm also not saying that anyone who says they're a New York Times bestseller is not credible. Nor am I saying that the people who show as people sign up for their programs are doing so disingenuously. In fact, that is a marketing tactic that I myself have used, like you can see right here on the screen. The problem I have with any of these is that the lines can get blurry very quickly because it's really hard to tell who's telling the truth and who's not, especially in places where pay to play is an option. So for example, many of these leaders will hire PR agencies to get them into these articles, or they will pay the publishers themselves to be featured in those articles. Or B, people are using these tactics facetiously, aka they're either manufacturing the results they're sharing or they're just flat out lying. I'm sure we've seen this time and time again, especially with like the MLM payouts. They make it seem like the number's so big, but then the reality is they got paid like $5. Honestly, it's just like a little bit embarrassing, I think. So then if that's the case, by now you might be wondering, how do we know? How do we know who's legit and how do we know who's lying? And that's the part that gets really tricky and is honestly one of the key motivators for why I create the content that I do. If you are truly trying to put effort into starting a new business venture, hiring a mentor, joining a community of like-minded people, I think there is a level of responsibility that falls back onto the consumer to make sure that you're doing your due diligence. And honestly, I wish it was easier than that. I wish there was like this obvious, dummy-proof, fully accessible, and easy way to decipher who is legitimate and who is not. But I really don't think there is. And if you disagree with me or you have suggestions, please be sure to leave those in the comments below. From my perspective, the only real way to protect yourself when, pursuing something new and unfamiliar, no matter how legitimate it may seem, is to make sure that you're doing your research, you're asking questions, and you're paying attention to the things that sound too good to be true. Don't just take what you see at face value, and don't be afraid to ask other people in your life for a second opinion. I think a lot of the times, and I know in the coaching space this is really common, these coaches will encourage you to not talk to your husband or don't mention it to your friends or your family because they don't want them to convince you otherwise. But that's because the thing that they're trying to sell you on is scammy, and it's the same in MLMs actually. But if your spidey senses are tingling, telling you something seems off, that's probably for a reason. And if you find yourself asking questions to these people, again, whether it's a new community group, an MLM, a mentor, and they're either dodging your questions or redirecting you away from the question, keep asking until you get the answers you're looking for. And if you can't get those answers, that's pretty much a huge red flag. It is a scary world out there, and I do not want you to get scammed. My email inbox is always open if you are looking at an opportunity and you want a second pair of eyes to know whether or not it's legit. Please feel free to send me your stuff. You can find my email linked in the description below. That's gonna be it for today. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will leave you with this video right here next. Bye!